Hey there, TNA fan, we're back here at the impzonepod podcast here to talk more TNA wrestling shenanigans, and I want to talk about whether we're serving 2 or more masters. So this is a very interesting and weird kind of thing to kind of talk about, but wrestling is sometimes about serving more than one master, so to speak, because TNA is in a unique position. You have to be, quote, as I say, a variety show. So you're not just saying we're going to cater towards one and one only audience. We're not catering to the audience of just one type of wrestling fan. Yes, we have to cater to the alternative wrestling fan, the fans who are not really watching WWE perhaps all the time, or perhaps don't want to watch WWE all the time, or AEW, or whatever else it is, whatever the bigger promotions are, or whatever. And I still think we're in that or we're starting to get into that conversation as well. You know, TNA's been around for a long time, and you can't ignore the, you know, some of the success, yes, some of the failures that they've had in the past, but does that work? Can you serve more than one master? I think if it's your core audience or your audience in general, I think yes. I think you can serve multiple masters as far as saying, we have some great professional wrestling, some great technical wrestling, great pure wrestling, absolutely like old school wrestling. That, and saying, hey, we've also got some great, you know, strong style wrestling, like New Japan style wrestling. We've also got some great lucha style wrestling, like the X Division style wrestling, you know. But we also have a great mixture of wrestlers. We don't just have a bunch of X Division wrestlers. We don't just have a bunch of heavyweight wrestlers. We don't just have a bunch of technical wrestlers. But all those wrestlers aren't just here to wrestle the wrestle, and be wrestlers. They're here to be performers. They're here to be entertainers. They're here to be characters. They're here to entertain as much as characters as they are as professional wrestlers. They work at their craft. They are, you know, in the gym. They are training. They are working at their craft, learning more, you know, developing such and such, whatever. Not just saying, yes, we'll rest on our laurels, or we'll, you know, phone it in, or whatever else it is. Or, you know, like I saw Matt Hardy saying, we'll do the traditional wrestling. And I sort of understood what he meant, but on his podcast there, John was saying, you know, look into the crowd, you know, reach for the tag rope, do this, do that, you know, those classic, you know, whatever things that you think of with traditional wrestling, those psychology moments that are there. That's obvious. But then again, I think we have to look at our own history, and we have to serve our own history's master, but we don't have to just that. We have to innovate. We have to be innovative. Not everyone can be, but again, some people should be innovative and should be doing different things. And that can be done in many different ways, especially now, like with them having a different side of production. I think where the main issue with this serving 2 masters or serving too many masters sort of becomes a problem is trying to serve WWE and not trying to serve the TNA fans, because there is a big difference between TNA fans and WWE fans, or the WWE audience. Yes, we can send our superstars or our wrestlers, whatever, over there to WWE and serve that audience by sending them over there and doing stuff over there. We've sent Leon Slater over there. We've sent the Hardys over there. We've done this. We've done that. We've sent a bunch of people over there. We've sent our best talent over there for months and months and months, you know, and we've served that audience. Where's the payoff? And there is some here, certainly, but where's the payoff for the TNA audience? They've seen all their favorite superstars, all the people that have been in TNA going over to WWE and doing all this stuff in WWE, and maybe they think, oh, that's cool to see such and such in WWE, and I'm sure the WWE fans think, oh, that's cool to see this person that TNA has, and maybe we'll check out TNA or whatever else it is and whatnot. That sort of thing. But realistically, again, when you're TNA on the other side trying to serve two masters, what has WWE really sent us? Yes, perhaps a little bit of attention, a little bit of promotion, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, whatever. And yes, they did send us Trick Williams for 6 months, and they did send us AJ Styles for a big moment and whatever else, and another big moment upcoming. But what have they really done? Like, what have they actually, like, tangibly done? Yes, you could say they've been involved or they're partially responsible for this AMC, like, deal coming through or whatever. Perhaps, yes, to some degree, but, like, how much percent? Like, how much of that is tangible? How can you actually say that it was them when they weren't in discussions with any of these? They weren't really backing TNA up. There was no real mention of, AMC saying, "Oh, we're really impressed with your partnership with WWE." They didn't even mention it. They said, "Oh, we didn't even know you had the Hardys. We know the Hardys. The Hardys are cool. Let's do something with the Hardys. We love them. Can we get an autograph?" and all this sort of stuff. So that's another thing that opened the door for them, just having the Hardys again. Even though I've clowned on them and said some stuff about them, as far as in-ring, and saying, hey, it'd be better if they were in another role or whatever else it is, or only like doing things on a smarter level or whatever with them, at least in story perspective. I think in-ring that they're trying to do their darndest to do what they could do. And again, I think they're doing too many dates and they're doing too many different things, but whatever, it is what it is sometimes. But that's their love and their dedication to wrestling and to the fans. So I can't question that in some regards. But again, sometimes having these icons, these legends, be part of your show or be part and parcel with your show, people forget that these guys are here or whatever else it is, and then somebody just mentions it, or you see it in a video package or something else that you're bringing to the table to negotiations, and that gets them to go, oh shit, we know the Hardys or whatever else it is, we didn't even know they were with you or whatever, we didn't, whatever. We'd love to have something to do with them. Oh, that sounds really cool, because obviously, we remember them from, whatever it is, nearly 30 years ago now, whatever it is, back in the 90s, whatever it is, so, but yeah, that helped them open that door a little bit more and get that little bit more interest in the product. But yeah, that, again, are you going to say, what are we going to serve as far as how much are we going to serve WWE casual fans that are going to tune in, or AEW casual fans that might tune in, or just casual wrestling fans that are going to tune in, versus how much are we going to, cater to our hardcore, original TNA core audience. That might be a bit of a different conversation, and I do think that has already happened before, and they got the mixture way, way wrong, because of course you've got to bring in these mega stars and whatnot. And I've said before as well, like saying with Chris Jericho and Karrion Kross and some of these other people that have been on the list of people that TNA could sign or are out there or whatever else, Braun Strowman, some of these other people that are out there, whatever, that you could, and that would be great to bring some of these people in. But obviously, if Chris Jericho is going to WWE, he's going to WWE. We're not going to get that. That's fine. Like, we can't get everyone, so we can't get everyone. That's the way it is. If Jericho says, hey, I'm going to WWE, but you know what? I'm going to swing by TNA for a little while or do something in TNA, to help them out or to do something with them as well. Okay, cool, great. We're getting that too. I don't know what his situation is or what he wants to do or how he wants to do it or what WWE wants to do or what Triple H wants to do. That's up to him or up to the committee that's booking over there. So again, that's the idea of saying, okay, cool. You decide what you want to do and why you want to do it. We'll decide what we want to do and why we want to do it. So again, for those casual viewers, you've got to bring in major superstars that can bring eyeballs to the product, but not just saying we're going to bring them in for no real reason or just because we can, or we're going to bring in too many people that can't really go right now or are just going to phone it in again or whatever else it is. We can't have too much of a mix of, now we've gone too far with having too many of these, WWE or WCW or AEW or whoever guys coming in, and our guys aren't feeling as important or aren't on par with these guys. We've got to build our roster for the future. We can't just rely on saying, oh, well, Chris Jericho did say he wanted to come in or whatever else it is, and there's rumors of that. Maybe he will, maybe he won't. I don't know. If he does, he does. If he doesn't, he doesn't. That's the end of the story. If he comes in, okay, cool. Well, then we've got to use him. But we can't just use him for the sake of saying, hey, Jericho, we want to put you over and we want to do stuff with you. No, we want to bring you in. We want to do stuff with you to help our young talent get over so that our core audience is also served, and that those people that have tuned in, the casual fans that have tuned in to see you or see AJ or see whoever or whatever else it is that they're tuning in to see, that, hey, well, there's this other cool person or this other cool team or this other thing going on here, so maybe I'll keep tuning in even if Jericho's gone, or even if the Hardys are gone, or even if whatever's gone, there'll still be some stuff here for me to tune in and see and really enjoy. I'm not just going to, this company isn't just going to fall apart because, suddenly we don't have the Hardys, or suddenly we don't have Chris Jericho, or suddenly we just didn't get Chris Jericho to come over here. Things aren't going to fall apart that bad because we've got somebody else waiting in the wings. We've got something else. We've always got something else to get the fans to, those casual fans to tune in. And of course, TNA fans are very respectful and understand professional wrestling. They're very smart. The core audience of TNA are very smart professional wrestling fans at the end of the day. Perhaps not the smartest, but they're definitely up there. You've got to be a smart person and a bit of a rebel, a bit of an outsider, or whatever else it is to be in the TNA fan base, I think. So again, that's sort of part of that audience. And a lot of the people that are there have been through thick and thin with you. And yes, so a lot of them might stick with you through thick and thin still, but you shouldn't just piss them off or whatever else it is just for the sake of it. That's shooting yourself in the foot and saying we're just going to try to put ourselves out of business. What's that for? You shouldn't be saying let's try to put ourselves out of business. You should be saying, okay, how do we stay in business? How do we please our audience? How do we balance these things out? How do we have some of these ex-WWE or AEW guys come in that will help create a buzz and help, with building up our roster or help building up our younger talent in that roster, and are we going to keep any of these people long term, over a year or what have you? It's been amazing. Some of the signings and some of the things that TNA has gotten and some of the procurements that they've gotten, because a lot of people say, oh, everyone's going to AEW from WWE. Not everyone. Mustafa Ali didn't go to AEW, from WWE. Eric Young might not be that big of a name, but, he didn't go to AEW. He could have done very easily. after being in WWE. He did that twice. He came back to TNA twice. Um, you know, so again, like, and the Righteous, they didn't sign with WWE. They could have signed with WWE. The Hardys could have signed with WWE, but they didn't. They would have had a very easy road to go to WWE and have a retirement tour, but they stuck with TNA again to do more, to finish up their run or whatever else that they're doing for however long it is. Cedric Alexander didn't sign with AEW from WWE. I could, Nick Nemeth, I could go on and on and on. There's a bunch of people that, either almost signed with TNA or have, come to sign with TNA that didn't sign with AEW. So again, TNA can be a destination for a lot of people. And that this has to be proven to people that we have, especially now that we have all this money. Yes, we've got to save some of that money as long as we can and as much as we can because we want to do as many live shows. And again, we need more infrastructure. We need more trucks. We need more production. We need more this. We need more that. Obviously, we need more things. We need more ability to, produce these shows more quickly, more easily, more live, more turnaround, etc. Even if you're going to say, well, let's do 2 weeks in the same, arena in the same venue, but they're 2 weeks apart or whatever, or they're a week apart or whatever, so we're coming this Thursday and next Thursday or whatever it is, so those sorts of things could work out or whatever it is. And yeah, like, it's just one of those things. Like I said, there's a lot of little things that you could say, how do we serve our core TNA audience? How do we bring in young indie guys like Leon Slater or whoever, like maybe Danny Luna and other people that basically are not no-name people, but basically have never really been to the major promotions, or if they have, they more or less played a more minor role, and we can form them and make them into our own superstars. Because Danny was in NXT UK, I'm pretty sure. Maybe she was also in WWE's NXT for a little while. I don't really know. But yeah, there's probably a few other people that are in TNA that, technically speaking, they had a short stint with WWE or WWE NXT or WWE NXT UK or whatever else, anything else. But again, you have to be like, yes, that was part of their history or whatever else it was. But, realistically, they never really amounted to very much in that WWE system. And hey, we're bringing them over here to really be our guy or our gal or whatever else it is. We're going to invest in them and we're going to see where it goes. And maybe some of that investment is not the most wise thing to do, but, when it's like a heel, it's a lot easier because you can say, well, let's build all these baby faces around that heel so that then people have good baby faces to root for, because it's a lot easier to be like, oh, cool, let's root for this, up-and-coming person or whatever else it is, this great baby face, rather than rooting for the sort of somewhat established heel, no matter who they are, even if they're a younger or more up-and-coming person. It's great to see sometimes those younger and up-and-coming heel personas get their chance to shine. But yeah, like when you get to that point of saying, well, who else do we have, or what else do we have, or where else can we go with this character or these stories, it starts becoming, oh, okay, no, it might be time to change things or change the directory or whatever else it is, or secure things a little bit more or do things in a different way or whatever else it is, so that, yeah, again, people can have those heroes or those stories, brought back to, because it's like, well, how else can we get, this belt onto this person without, them already having had strife or having had a story while you've got it on another babyface. It's like you're kind of fighting the fact that you've got it on this great babyface that you've already got, but everyone's kind of gravitating to another babyface. You know what I mean? So instead of saying, hey, we're going to make these two babyfaces clash and make people choose between them, which can be somewhat interesting in some regards, but, you know, if you say, okay, cool, well, what we're going to do is we're going to put it on this heel instead, and then we're going to, you know, transition it from one baby face effectively to the other, you know, or whatever. Or we're going to get to see who the audience really wants to see in that role, you know, and how we can build that narrative with them to that point of saying, now the fans are the most interested in this character. We've hit the peak of this character. It's time to pull the trigger. We've been building to it and building to it and building to it, and now it's the right time because we've got the maximum amount of interest, the maximum amount of everything ready to go for this. And then, like, not just after this, we don't just say, oh, well, thank you, goodbye, now that they don't have anything to do or anywhere to go or any stories after this besides just, like, a rematch with the person that they just beat, but they're obviously going to win or whatever. But hey, we are going to go down a route with this person and we have other challenges and other things for them. That's always the most important thing of, like, any title reign or any story or anything. Like, if you've got some mainstay people on your roster or whatever else it is, you've got to keep them working and keep them busy, because, you know, nothing is worse than people not having a story and not having something to work with. You know, you've got to give these people something to build and work with. You can't just say, oh, well, never mind, whatever, this is how we're going to go or whatever. We're just going to keep going with nothing for you and hope for the best or whatever. No. We've got to build people into this division, or find people for this division, or find people for this person to challenge them, so that this division is alive and thriving, and it has stories and characters and everything going for it. You can't have everyone on the roster at the same time, obviously, unless you're going to do like a 5-man or a 4-man or whatever 6-man sort of style match or something like that. But same with tag teams. You can't have too many tag teams vying at the same time, but you've got to have at least another couple of other tag teams kind of on your show, because, like, one of those tag teams is going to be the champions, and the other ones are going to be the next challengers, and the next challengers after that, and or whatever else it is. Same with, like, the singles division. You've got to be building up somebody and somebody else, kind of, so that it's like, you know, okay, cool. These are potentially the next 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 people that could challenge for that belt, you know, when you get to see them. So, you know, you get that perspective of, well, this person might be a short-term challenger or whatever else it is, but, you know, they're going to get their moment or they're going to get their chance, you know. But this is the main person that is perhaps, you know, the person that is the main focus, you know. So they'll be getting there a little bit later, but at a more important moment or whatever. So I do think it's a delicate balancing act to kind of serve, quote unquote, 2 masters, as far as your traditional or your core original TNA fan base and the incoming, you know, more casual fan base. Because the more casual fan base, yes, maybe they'll connect with some of the more, like, not niche, but the more niche TNA wrestlers or whatever else it is, especially like Santana and Leon and whatever else, and some of the other people that are there. But, you know, I don't think that any one of them are probably going to connect with a heel like, say, Danny Luna, or a heel. Maybe they will with Mustafa Ali, I don't know. But, like realistically, or Nick Nemeth or whoever, but realistically, they're more going to connect with the baby faces more likely. Whereas the core TNA audience is going to be invested almost no matter what, unless you get the balance of saying, hey, we're just going to focus in on these WWE, ex-WWE guys or whatever else it is. No, we're not just focusing in on them. We're focusing in on them being a draw and them helping get somebody like Leon Slater or somebody like, I don't know, Mike Santana or something else over, so that it's like, okay, cool. That's great. We've got to see, this and that for this person. And now it feels like a bigger deal for them to be like, okay, cool. We'll keep seeing some more from these other things, and there was this thing or there was that thing. I still think, if R-Truth had been on the list of releases or whatever, they could have tried to capitalize on that, because Truth has a history in TNA, and it's like, well, we could do stuff with Truth, and I think that they have a lot of respect for Truth. But yeah, it is tough to serve two masters, because the core TNA fans, not that they don't want to see WWE or AEW wrestlers, or even Ring of Honor or New Japan or whatever, these guys, it's that they don't want their core TNA projects, so to speak, taken over or overshadowed too much by these new signings. And the casual fans, they probably don't know much about these, TNA guys or these, up and coming people. And they're probably only like, oh, Chris Jericho or AJ or whoever, the major names who they're already kind of familiar with, going, oh, cool, such and such is here. That's great. Whatever. The Hardys are here. These guys are here. That guy's here. Whatever. Nick Nemeth, Dolph Ziggler, aka whatever. So, yeah. So you've got to serve both of those audiences who sort of somewhat have conflicting views, but you've got to introduce your more casual fans to your new and up and coming guys and get them excited and get them to see why, hey, whoa, this Mike Santana guy, whoa, maybe I've heard of him or something or whatever, but he's going head to head with Chris Jericho or with this person or with that person or whatever else it is. And here's this great thing. And, well, I like Jericho and all that and have memories of him and all this sort of stuff, but I still kind of want to see Santana whoop his ass or whatever else it is. And that's going to be a great match either way or whatever. But is Jericho going to win the belt or whoever? Again, I'm using Jericho as a very simple and basic, add-in to say, hey, you could replace his name with anyone. But, if you bring in Karrion Kross, still a fairly young guy, so to speak, but still has a fairly kind of big name. He was with WWE for quite a while. People were chanting, we want Kross, we want Kross. And if they're smart, hopefully they'll bring him in. And he'll be something in that division. And people will enjoy it. But we'll wait and see. But again, like, what role, if he is going to be there, is he going to play and how's he going to play it? What's it going to be? I don't know if he is going to come. Who knows? Or if he isn't. But again, if he isn't, he isn't. We're not going to sit here and beg and plead and cry and carry on to say, this is, he should come or whatever. Sign the deal, cunt, or whatever. If that's his decision and he wants to work the indies or he wants to potentially keep fishing for AEW or whatever else it is or hoping for a WWE return or whatever else it is, that's up to him, man. It's all up to him and what he wants to do and what TNA can offer him or whoever can offer him or whoever it is. Same thing. If they don't want to come in and work with TNA and do business, that's it. Well, we're not interested in bringing you in then, obviously. we've asked you, you know, if you're only interested in going to WWE, that's up to you. We don't really care. We just want to do our due diligence and see if you were interested. You know, we're obviously going to offer you some good money, and we're going to use you fairly well because you're like, if you're Jericho or Cross, you're a fairly big name. And hey, we want the best here for our audience in general. It doesn't matter if they're casual fans tuning in for the first time or the first time in a long time or whatever else it is, or if it's our die-hard fans that have been here for 10 years, 20 years, 24 years, whatever it's been. You know, no matter how long you've been here with us, we want to entertain you in every way possible, not just saying that we have great stories and great characters and great vignettes and great wrestling or whatever else, but in any other way that we can. Just by meet and greets, just by other little things, or you know, whatever. You know, these I don't enjoy some of like the concert stuff, or whatever that happens, but it's cool when they're used to be like a vehicle for certain people to be like, okay, cool, great, you know, that's that person's shtick, more or less. That's what's special about them that helps them get in and out of storylines and rivalries and whatever else. So using it as that vehicle of saying this is somewhat predictable again, because when you're going to see this person out in the ring often enough, he's got that person like Elijah or Joe Hendry is going to get jumped or going to try to get jumped by somebody or interrupted in a promo by somebody, to set up a feud with them, you know. But at least like when it's something like that, for me, it's like, oh, okay, cool. So this is who they're going with or what they're going with or whatever else it is that I get to see, you know, rather than I don't really care about this concert or this person singing or whatever. I actually start caring when it's like the heels coming out to interrupt it, because it's like, how, you know, like it's not getting heat with me, but it's like, okay, they're getting some heat now for interrupting the thing that the people quote unquote wanted. So sometimes you kind of got to give them this little thing where they feel like, oh, we don't want to see this person interrupted or whatever, but you actually kind of do, because it's like, well, this is a wrestling show, remember, not just, you know, a music show where we play some music or whatever else and we have a sing-song or whatever. This is about, you know, rivalries, personal issues, about championships, and about that sort of stuff. So focus in on, you know, again, realism in wrestling. Not everything has to be absolute realism, but if you have a character like Rosemary's, that character needs a sense of realism. You know, she brings that sense of realism as the person playing that character in the way that she presents it. But you can't do too much like spooky wooky stuff just for the sake of, oh, it's spooky wooky because it's a spooky wooky character. No, you need to say, okay, well, why are we doing this spooky stuff or whatever else it is? What's all this about? Why is that important? You know, this is this character, but why is that important that we see this or experience that or whatever else it is? What's it providing to the story or providing to the feud that we're trying to tell? Not just it's there, you know, and it exists and it's just spookiness for the spooky sake, you know, or whatever, or cryptic stuff just for cryptic sake or whatever. Like I said before, same thing with saying anything against AEW or WWE. Like, again, like, if it's not going to be a payoff or it's not really going to lead anywhere, I don't really think that it should really exist too much. You shouldn't rely on it too much. But if you're just referencing something in a relationship to somebody else that was in a similar situation to you at the same time, then it's kind of like, oh, okay, this is part of it. You know, this is just part of this thing. And then somewhat a shot at AEW or whatever, at least for, theoretically or whatever. So yeah, we can do that, but it's like we're not serving the master of let's nitpick AEW all the time just for WWE's sake. Maybe a little jab here, a little jab there, or whatever. But still, you can't just say we're only going to jab them or whatever. We're going to send some of those barbs, some of those jabs at WWE's way if we have that to do. Like, here's the story that we're already been involved in for a while, and saying, hey, you guys expect to trample all over us and whatnot to the WWE guys or whatever. You expect just to get your way, just to be handed things. That's not what we expect. We expect that we have to earn those things. We have to come and earn respect. And if you want to, be just handed things, that's where you're never going to get anything, type thing. And that's the sort of privilege that you've been, put into or whatever. That sort of thing. And all of the WWE entertainers have been put into, because you think that you're so superior to us that you think that since we're quote unquote beneath you, that you'll just get anything that you want. That's not how it works, or whatever. Things like that. Still taking somewhat jabs at them, but it's still within the story, So it can't be things that just like don't serve purposes. What is the purpose of saying this? Unless it's like tied to these two characters or tied to something. It's not just we're going to say this shit because WWE told us to say this shit, or we're just going to talk our shit or whatever, for the lack of a better term, or perhaps somebody went into somewhat business for themselves, it feels like, or whatever. No. We're not here to do that. We're not here to make enemies. We're here to do our own thing, and whatever. But this is part of it, or whatever. So, but yeah, guys. Anyway, I do think, as I said, it is feasible to serve both of those sort of somewhat different. I don't want to say that they're opposite, but like somewhat more extreme sides of the spectrum, so to speak. And like, I hope that they get that right. I hope that they're not sitting there and over-reliant again on WWE guys or AEW guys or whoever, whatever. Anybody, anything. I don't care. I want to see young talent that we find, bring them up, and make them household names. I don't want to just see the same old guys doing the same old thing that they've done. If I want to see Chris Jericho or whoever, anybody else, come into this promotion and do something, I want to see them reinvent themselves. I want to see them like trying and saying, no, I'm going to put in 100% of whatever else I've got into this, not just, oh yeah, I'm here and I'm phoning it in because I'm getting paid, or whatever. That's not what I want to see. I just want to see the best thing for TNA, because that'll be the best thing for making TNA another destination for everybody to work. And eventually, again, as I said, this deal with WWE will end one way or another. Whether that's in the next year or whether that's in the next couple of years, I don't know. But at a certain point, it will end one way or another. And I don't know whether WWE, I think they do want to maybe end on a positive note. So perhaps they're building up to these things. And that's what I hope that they're doing. Not just say, and this is what it's felt like I've said before, like they're just dangling that carrot and hoping that we continue to bite and hope that we continue to give them everything that they want, while just they're not going to really give us anything, basically. Or just give us token things that basically don't mean anything and don't go anywhere. And you could say, oh, well, the relationship has only been there for a year. Well, if you really wanted it to work, you would have put everything behind it. You know, not just said, yeah, whatever, we'll send them some scraps or whatever else it is, and we'll see how it goes or whatever. And we'll keep doing that. We'll keep doing that, basically. But yeah. Anyway, guys, I think that's pretty much it for this one. I hope you've enjoyed, as I say, and I hope you join me again in another one.